Today, we're diving into the latest surge in India's oil demand, revealing how BRICS nations are changing the rules of the oil game and exposing the misleading green energy narratives pushed by big agencies. We'll also challenge the myths about fossil fuel demand and look at the real drivers shaping our energy future. Get ready for the unfiltered truth behind what's powering global markets. Welcome, I'm Sean Pruitt, owner of Kingdom Exploration. I've been investing and developing oil for years, and I spend my time digging deep into what truly drives oil prices. Unlike the mainstream voices, I'm not owned by anyone. I speak my mind, guided only by my own research, my experience, and the truth as I see it. The only influence over me is God Himself. So if you are ready to hear independent, no-nonsense analysis on the forces shaping the energy world, you are in the right place. Let's get started. All right, let's jump into today's big topics. First up, we're seeing a major surge in oil demand coming out of India. According to the S&P Global Commodity Insights, India's oil consumption is set to rise by 4% in the final quarter of 2024. This is driven by a busy festival season and increased agriculture activity after the monsoon, leading to an additional upwards of 55,000 barrels of gasoline and diesel consumed per day through November and December. India is one of the world's largest oil importers, covering 85% of its consumption through imports. And they are not just relying on any oil, they are strategically buying discounted crude from Russia, capitalizing on opportunities created by Western sanctions. This isn't just a short-term trend. India is preparing for a long-term growth with plans to expand refining capacity by 20% by 2028. But there's the broader reality. There's a fundamental truth about energy consumption that most mainstream analysts conveniently overlook. Bloomberg's postulates state that every molecule of fossil fuel produced in the world will be burned by somebody somewhere. Local restrictions might change who benefits, but they won't change the fact that what's produced will be consumed. This is why global demand remains strong despite efforts to paint the picture. The future of fossil fuels isn't about a decline. It's about adapting to who's buying and where it's being used. Now, let's expand to a global perspective. OPEC's latest monthly oil market report from the October 2024 shows that almost all future growth in oil demand will come from non-OECD countries. Non-OECD economies, led by nations like India, China, and others across the Middle East and Africa, are adding nearly 1.7 million barrels per day to the global demand alone in 2025. OPEC's Secretary General recently said the future of global oil demand is firmly anchored in the expanding economies outside the West, driven by infrastructure, growth, and industrialization. This isn't just speculation. It's a trend based on hard numbers from OPEC's October report. And let's not forget geopolitical landscape. Every shift in oil prices is tied to strategic maneuvers. Whether it's sanctions, trade agreements, or diplomatic shifts, the power plays are all about controlling energy flows. BRICS nations, for instance, are moving to bypass Western controls, creating alliances and trade deals that are shaking up the market. India's decision to buy discounted Russian oil is a strategic move, ensuring energy security while avoiding the pitfalls of the dollar-denominated transactions. OPEC is also adjusting its game plan, acknowledging the growth in non-OECD supply and demand as highlighted in their October 2024 report. Rosemary Griffin from S&P Global noted OPEC is recalibrating to a world where traditional Western consumption patterns are no longer dominant, and developing economies are setting the pace for the future demand. Finally, we need to address the biased narratives from agencies like the EIA. They push a vision of an imminent green energy transition, downplaying the role of oil, while simultaneously making big investments in fossil fuels behind the scenes. The EIA's projections often lowball future oil demand, particularly in non-OECD regions, while overselling the ability of renewables. But if renewables were truly ready to take over, then why are major financial institutions, including the very same ones pushing this green narrative, still investing billions in oil infrastructure? Let's talk about the ongoing cycle of demand. Whenever prices dip, so does short-term consumption. But lower prices naturally drive demand back up. It's a simple cyclical truth. The cure to low prices is low prices. This drives consumption and strokes growth, especially in economies where energy is critical to industrialization. Bloomberg puts it clearly. If demand for oil temporarily dissipates and prices collapse, guess what? Demand goes up to many in the mainstream that tried to draw straight lines on cyclical patterns, and that's a mistake. So there it is. The reality that mainstream isn't ready to admit non-OECD nations like India and China are driving the future of global oil demand. They are not slowing down. Energy consumption will keep rising, driven by developing economies and a continuous push for better quality of life. Renewables have a role, but they can't do it alone. The EIA might keep pushing its anti-fossil fuel narrative, but they can't ignore the truth forever. We'll keep bringing you the real story, cutting through the spin and delivering the facts. Until next time, stay sharp, question everything you hear. The cure to low prices is low prices, and the truth cuts through the noise. Keep seeking it. All right, guys, I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, please subscribe. Please share this with your colleagues to help me with the biased algorithm out there because they don't like this stuff. All right, guys, we'll talk soon. Thanks.